Good evening, and welcome to Nox Historia. Tonight, we travel to the world of Old Istanbul, the great city on the water between two continents in the age of Suleiman the Magnificent, around the year 1550, nearly 500 years ago now. A city that was once called Constantinople, and before that Byzantium, and that had already stood in one form or another for more than 1,000 years before the evening we are about to share. Settle yourself. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Let the weight of the day go soft beneath you, the way the light goes soft over a city at dusk. There is nowhere you need to be tonight but here, and here is a place that no longer exists exactly as it once did. A warm, lamplit, unhurried version of a city that in truth was one of the largest on the whole of the earth. Perhaps 500,000 souls lived within it and around it in those years, more than Paris, more than London. A meeting place where Europe leaned across the water toward Asia and Asia leaned back. And here is something most people never learn. We tend to imagine such a place as loud, as grand, as endlessly public, bazaars and processions and the glint of empire. But a great city is mostly its evenings. It is mostly quiet courtyards and cooling stone and the small yellow flame of a single lamp behind a wooden lattice, and families settling, and the day letting go of itself. That is the Istanbul we will walk through tonight. Not the empire in daylight, the city as it breathes out. You do not need to remember any of this, not the dates, not the names, not a single fact. Let them drift past you like lamplight on a wall. If you find your attention loosening, if the words begin to blur and fold into the dark, then let them. If you fall asleep before we reach the stars over the water, that is exactly what this is for. This is not a lesson to be passed. It is a place to be carried into sleep. So let us begin. Let us stand first upon one of the 7 hills of the city, in the last of the daylight, and simply look. Below and all around, the rooftops fall away in soft terracotta waves. Low houses of timber and stone, packed close, their tiles catching the last of the sun in 100 shades of rose and amber and dusty gold. And rising above them, again and again, the great gray domes, round and heavy and calm, like sleeping creatures, each one crowned by the slender needles of its minarets, reaching up into a sky that is turning the color of a ripe apricot. See how the light lies along the water in the distance, the strait they call the Bosphorus, the narrow silver channel that divides the continents and joins the seas. You need not go down to it tonight. It is enough to know it is there, a band of cooling brightness at the edge of everything, carrying the last few sails home. The wind that comes up from it is gentle now, evening wind, and it moves through the cypress trees on the hillsides so that they sway, slow and dark and tall, like something patient that has learned how to wait. And there, the newest and greatest of the domes, still fresh, its stone still pale. This is the mosque that Suleiman the Sultan has ordered built upon this very hill, and it is being raised in these very years by his master architect, a man named Sinan. Thousands of workers have labored on it. Its 4 minarets carry 10 balconies between them, one for each sultan who has reigned since the founding of the line. A quiet count of years written into stone against the sky. We know all this because the building still stands, 5 centuries on. You could walk into it tomorrow, and travelers have written of it in every generation between then and now. Now the light thickens and goes golden and then rose, and from the highest balcony of the nearest minaret, a single human voice rises into the evening air. It is the call to prayer, drifting out over the rooftops, unhurried, rising and falling, a melody more than a summons. And then, from further off, a second voice answers it from another minaret, and a third from beyond that, and a fourth, softer still, until the whole city seems to be gently singing to itself across the dusk. The sound carries the way sound carries over water at the end of a day, blurred and warm and without edges. It is one of 5 such calls that mark the hours. This is the one at sunset, the one that tells the city the day is ending. Hear how the people below pause. A porter sets down his load. A woman on a rooftop straightens from her washing. And all across the hills, quietly, in courtyards and in mosques, and in the small, clean rooms of homes, people turn to face the same distant point far to the south, and bow, and let the day be finished. There is no hurry in it. The sound washes over you and asks nothing of you. You may simply let it hold you the way it holds them. And when the last note fades, the light is nearly gone, and the great bazaar is closing its doors. Let us walk down now into the covered heart of the city, the grand bazaar, a whole world of vaulted stone streets roofed against the sky, lit by day through small high windows. All day it has roared, softly, with the business of half a continent. Silk from further east, wool and amber from the north, spices, coppered lamps, carpets deep as gardens, gold weighed out on tiny scales. But the roar is over now. The last customers have gone. See how the shopkeepers pull down their wooden shutters, one after another, along the arcades. A soft rolling clatter that moves away from you into the dark like a receding tide. A lamp is snuffed here, a padlock turned there. The carpets are rolled and stacked. The scent of the day lingers, though the noise has gone. Cinnamon and cardamom and dust and lamp oil and the dry sweetness of old wood. An old man sweeps the swept floor one last time, out of habit more than need, and then he too puts up his broom and goes. And so the bazaar empties, and the great vaulted streets fall silent, and only the caretaker walks them now with his single lamp, its light swaying along the arches, catching the gilt of a locked door, the curve of a hanging chain, and then moving on and letting the dark come back behind it. The city is folding its daytime self away, shop by shop, and turning toward home. Out into the lanes, then, the narrow climbing lanes between the houses, where the evening has already gathered. These streets are not wide and straight the way we build them now. They wind. They rise and fall with the hills. They are barely wide enough for 2 to pass, and the upper stories of the timber houses lean out overhead, their carved wooden balconies almost touching above your head, so that walking here is like walking through a long, soft wooden canyon, roofed by a strip of darkening sky. Underfoot, the worn stones are still warm from the day. A cat watches you from a wall and then loses interest and folds itself smaller and closes its eyes. Here and there, a lamp has been lit behind a lattice window. The wooden screens they carve so finely, all little stars in interlacing shapes, so that the light comes through in a scatter of small gold points, and you cannot see in, and those inside cannot quite be seen. A little of wood smoke is in the air now, and cooking, onions and lamb and something sweet. Somewhere a child laughs and is hushed gently. A door closes. The lane grows quieter with every step, as though the whole street were breathing more and more slowly. There is a common idea, worth setting gently aside, that a city like this was a place of endless palaces and glittering excess. But the truth of it, the daily truth, was streets exactly like this one. Modest homes of wood and plaster, people of every faith and tongue living wall to wall, Muslim and Christian and Jewish families in their own quarters, all of them ending the day in much the same way. A meal, a lamp, the settling of children, sleep. An empire, seen up close, is mostly people going home. Let us follow one of them home now. Through a low wooden door in a high wall, into the courtyard of an ordinary house. The house turns its back on the street and opens instead onto this, a small enclosed courtyard, quiet and private, the heart of the home. This is how they build here, the outside plain and closed, the inside kept for the family. There is a fig tree in the corner, its broad leaves black against the last gray light. There are pots of herbs, basil and mint, releasing their scent into the cooling air as the day's heat lifts out of the stones. A wooden gallery runs around the upper floor, and from it hang the soft shapes of a few lanterns, not yet lit. The courtyard has held the warmth of the whole day, and now it gives it back slowly, so that the air here is mild and still, the sky above a deepening blue, with the very first star just showing at its edge. Someone has been here recently, a cushion left on the low bench, a book set down, a shawl over the rail. The house is exhaling the day. You can feel it. The kind of quiet that is not empty, but full of people close by, unhurried, at ease. And now, from an upper window, comes the first warm bloom of lamplight. Watch how it changes everything. A single oil lamp lit within, and at once the wooden lattice of the window glows gold from inside. Every carved star suddenly a small bright shape, and a soft square of amber light falls down into the courtyard and lies across the worn stones. Another lamp is lit, and another. The lantern on the gallery is brought down and touched with a taper and hung again, and now it too casts its slow, swinging light over the fig tree and the herbs and the quiet bench. This is how the evening was made, before there was any other way, with a wick and a little oil and a small living flame. Every room was as bright as its lamps, and no brighter, and so the whole world contracted, at night, to a few warm circles of gold in a soft and endless dark. It made the evenings intimate in a way ours are not. You gathered where the light was. You drew close. The dark beyond the lamp was simply where the day's work rested until morning. And in that light, the family gathers to eat. They sit low around a large round tray set upon a folding stand, cushions beneath them, the lamplight moving over their faces. There is warm flatbread, torn and shared by hand. There is a stew of lamb slow cooked with onions, aubergines soft as butter, rice, yogurt cool and white, olives, and a plate of ripe figs and grapes to finish. No one hurries. The food is passed and shared from the common dishes, and the talk is low and easy, the small talk of a family at the end of a day, what the child did, what the neighbor said, what tomorrow holds. Many of the things upon that tray you would know at your own table. The aubergine, the yogurt, the way the sweet fruit ends the meal. And after the food, someone brings out a small brass tray with tiny cups and pours out something new to the city in these years, something that has arrived only recently from the lands of the south and east, dark and hot and bitter and wonderful. Coffee. It is still a novelty here, this drink, still a small marvel, and the first houses devoted to it are opening even now in the streets nearby. You are watching, without knowing it, the very beginning of a habit that will one day belong to the whole world. To your own mornings, 5 centuries and half a planet away. Let us step out for just a moment, past the door, to catch a glimpse of one of those coffee houses. There, across the lane, warm light spilling from a low doorway, and inside, men sitting close on benches around the walls, small cups in their hands, the air blue with the smoke of it and murmurous with talk. A place like this is something genuinely new under the sun. There is nowhere quite like it in the world yet. Not a tavern, for there is no wine, but a house purely for sitting and talking and drinking this dark drink, and listening perhaps to a storyteller work his slow way through a tale everyone already knows. We will not go in. We are only passing, and the night is calling us back to quiet. But hear how the murmur of that room drifts out into the lane. Low voices, easy laughter, the soft clink of a cup set down, the sound of a city that has finished its labor and is simply keeping itself company in the dark. Then we turn away, and the light of it slips behind us, and the lane is ours again, and the stars are coming out. Back inside now, through the low door, into the courtyard, where the household is settling towards sleep. The tray has been cleared. The cups are rinsed and set to dry. In the warm rooms above, the day is being put away with the same gentle care as the shutters of the bazaar. A grandmother sits by a lamp with a spindle, spinning wool by feel more than sight, her hands moving in a rhythm older than the city. A father checks the door. A mother sits on the edge of a low bed and smooths the hair of a child who is already more than half asleep, and speaks a few soft words, and the child does not answer. There is very little furniture in these rooms, and this too is by design. By day, the low divans along the walls are for sitting. By night, thick mattresses are unrolled from the cupboards and laid upon the floor, quilts spread over them, and the sitting room simply becomes the sleeping room. The lamp is turned low. The carved shutters are drawn against the night air. The house grows dim and close and safe. One by one, the lamps of the house go out, or are turned down to the smallest ember of flame, just enough to find the way. The gold squares fade from the courtyard stones. The fig tree is only a shape now, and the whole house, which an hour ago glowed from within, goes dark and quiet, and joins the 10,000 other dark and quiet houses on the hills, all of them holding their sleeping families close in the great soft dark of the city. And still the household drifts down towards sleep. Someone lies listening in the near dark to the small last sounds of the night, the tick of the cooling house. A dog far off that barks twice and gives up. The wind in the cypress trees on the hillside, a long, slow hush that comes and goes like breathing. And beneath it all, so distant now as to be almost imagined, the faint murmur of the city itself. The last coffee house not yet closed, a boatman calling low across the water. The vast, quiet sound of 500,000 people breathing out the day at once. Feel how the body lets go when the light is gone and the house is safe and the day is truly finished. First the shoulders, then the hands uncurling. Then the long muscles of the back and legs softening into the mattress, into the floor, into the warm dark held between four still walls. There is nothing left to do tonight. The doors are shut, the lamps are out, the bread is baked for morning, and the water is drawn. Everything that needed doing has been done, or will keep until the light comes back. And so they sleep, the whole household, the whole lane, the whole hill of houses beneath their heavy domes. And you may feel yourself sinking with them, down through the layers of the evening, past the lamplight, past the quiet meal, past the last soft murmur, into the deep, still dark where the city keeps its people while the night turns over it. Now let us rise, gently, one last time, up above the sleeping roofs, into the cool, clear air over the city, and turn our eyes to the stars. See how they crowd the sky above old Istanbul in an age with no bright glare to drown them, thick and silver and slow wheeling from horizon to horizon, over the domes and the minarets and the dark hills and the pale ribbon of water between the continents. The same stars by which the sailors steer, by which the faithful reckon the direction of their prayers, by which every generation before the electric light told the passing of the hours of the night. There is no clock ticking in these houses. The night is told by the sky, and by the calls that will come again before dawn, and by the slow paling of the east. Below you, the Bosphorus lies still and dark and gleaming, and upon it a single late lantern moves. Some fishermen, some ferrymen, crossing between the sleeping shores, between Europe on the one hand and Asia on the other, as men have crossed here for 3,000 years and more. The city sleeps between two worlds, and has always slept between two worlds, a hinge of the earth where east meets west, and tonight, as on 10,000 nights, it simply rests and breathes and waits for morning under the wheeling stars. Think, if you like, as your thoughts begin to slow, of everything this quiet evening carried. The coffee that would one day reach your own table. The tulips that grew in these gardens that would one day be the pride of distant northern countries. The great domes that Sinan raised that stand to this hour. All of it began in evenings exactly like this one, ordinary, lamplit, unremembered evenings, of families eating and children sleeping, and a city breathing out the day. They are all asleep now, the people of that far city. The family in the courtyard house, the shopkeeper of the bazaar, the old man with his broom, the child whose hair was smoothed. They have been asleep for 500 years. And yet, tonight, we walked among them for a little while, in the warm dark, by the light of a single lamp, as they settled into their rest, as you, perhaps, are settling now. As you, perhaps, are sleeping now. So let go of the last of it. Let go of the day behind you and the day ahead. Let go of the names and the dates, the domes and the stars, and let them fold away into the dark like shutters closing, like lamps turned gently down. You do not need to hold any of it. It is enough that you were here, for a little while, in the quiet of an old and gentle city, at the hour when everything comes to rest. Sleep well, and when you are ready to travel again, Nox Historia will be waiting. Good night.